In today's episode of the Pathmark Presents podcast, I have a very interesting guest with me here today. I'm with Quirijn van der Haven, and he is the marketing team lead of Mopinion. And actually, if you check out his LinkedIn, he's to be actually the head of interplanetary marketing. I think we found the final opinion, the opponent in the marketing game. So very, very good. So Mopinion is an all-in-one user feedback platform that helps enterprises to listen and understand their customers across all the various different digital touch points, might it be mobile, web, and even email. So I'm very pleased to have Quirijn on the show to learn more about Mopinion and his perspective on growth. Welcome.
Hi, welcome. Yeah, thanks.
Very cool. So maybe in your own words, what is Mopinion all about?
Well, yeah, you said it already very briefly. At Mopinion, you make software that basically changes or helps enterprises utilize customer and user feedback from website, from app, and email. And then our software empowers digital teams by offering feedback collection and analysis software. In what we always say, a delightful and fresh user experience. So basically, we're a company. We're from the Netherlands, but we're serving over 250 enterprises worldwide, and that's the likes of Walmart, Sephora, PayPal, Volkswagen. There's lots of big enterprises using our software, but of course, there's also a need for feedback in smaller companies, and we can help them out as well.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. Super interesting. You mentioned enterprises, you mentioned smaller companies using. Is there like a particular vertical, like a particular industry or size, or that particularly benefits really well from using Mopinion?
Oh, that's sort of a tough question because you can put feedback on customer journeys, but also on user journeys or user experience and customer experience. So the need for such a feedback tool is felt basically in the whole digital world. I'm mentioning the big names, of course, but there's also like smaller cities in Norway or in Canada that make use of our software to see if their website is understandable for everyone, for example. Mm-hmm. So you can use it for all digital services, basically. But when you're really asking, okay, so where do we fit the market the best? I would say it's in IT, technology, software, but also in e-commerce and for retail. I think that's where the need for such a tool or the understanding of a need of a tool, of a software like Mopinion is the biggest.
Makes a lot of sense. I would be curious, who would be typically the champion within a company for Mopinion? Is that somebody sort of on the UX side of things? Is that a marketeer? Is that an operations team? Who is bringing in the tool?
Wow. Yeah. Well, if you would rewind this podcast a couple of seconds, you would hear me say that we focus on digital teams, that they benefit the most. And of course, that's quite a broad word. It's a tough question. Usually we see that as soon as you talk about customer experience, it's from the marketing department. They're usually initiating it. And well, how more mature the marketing team is and how bigger the marketing team is, then you see that it goes from a digital marketer to, for example, a mobile marketer or an email marketer. But you also see that conversion rate optimizers, that they are leading the whole buying process. On the other hand, it's what you mentioned, CX and UX experts. There's product managers that want to know when they release a feature if they're releasing the right feature. And digital analysts and researchers as well. But I think mainly from the marketing department.
Interesting. And for you as a marketer yourself, in this case, then obviously, winning marketers' hearts and attention to learn about Mopinion. So what would be sort of, a typical journey that somebody's going through in order to get to know about Mopinion? What would be the typical channels that you guys would be leveraging?
Yeah, so what we really see here is we have quite a decent inbound strategy. And the majority of our leads are coming via this inbound strategy and via search, organic search, paid search. So of course we claimed a couple of keywords in order to be there in the right time as soon as they start looking for such a tool. What you see is that a feedback tool. This is going to be tricky to say or hard to say for me, but for a lot of companies, it's not an essential tool. They're of course more focusing on, I don't know, like email automation, for the email marketers, or a quick way to release new updates for mobile UXers. And it always takes them some time to think about, okay, so wow, feedback, what do the people actually want from me? And then you see them diving into their computers and basically typing in feedback tools or feedback software. So that's, well, quite a bunch of stuff coming from that. And of course, there's no secret here. We think that we use the majority of all the marketing tricks in the book, all the digital marketing tricks. And well, next to that, we have a small outbound lead generation strategy. And well, of course, we are quite well known in the field of feedback, and also in the field of online software. You see that like G2 or Red Herring or other. It's not really. We get quite some awards by just being ourselves and delivering quite cool software, and that gets picked up as well.
Very cool. You brought up the outbound and inbound. Just for the listeners who start to learn about the different startup setups. Like, would you consider you guys being inbound driven, outbound driven? What is the split? Could you give us an idea roughly?
I think it's 90% inbound, 10% outbound.
Makes sense. Okay, cool. Great. I mean, since you mentioned inbound and we're talking a lot about websites in the Past Monk Presents podcast, what I would be curious about, how you thinking about the website having the marketing hat on right now, what would you say is, a strength of the website? Is there something that, stands out to you? Is it, the ability to convert? Is it, I don't know, the experience you provide, the quality of the leads? Like, where do you see a strength of the website?
Well, that's a couple of questions you asked there in one question. So if I look into the website, I'm quite happy with the way we present ourselves. The amount of call to actions is quite okay as well. I really like the fact that we use a lot of logos from our users, basically, because we're really proud on having them on board and believing in what we're doing. There's always room for improvement. I'm not gonna lie. So there's heaps of things in terms of the SEO strategy that we can improve. I always say SEO is 3 layers, and I think on the meta layer and on the technical layer, there's still a lot of room for improvement. But other than that, I'm quite happy with the vibe that the website gives and how it looks.
Interesting. Let's come back to the product, right? For everybody who's listening in, what would you say is the main competitive advantage, or what is it that they're getting that is a little bit difficult maybe to get with other solutions when using Mopinion?
There's one really big difference compared to all our competitors, and that is that we also, basically that we have this dashboarding going on in the background. So you make a form, you get feedback. That's basically how it works. And then with the majority of our competitors, you then use an export, probably an XLS or a CSV export, and then you have to do all this fiddling around with pivot tables and stuff like that. Well, I'm not a hero in that, I'm not gonna lie. So what I really like about Mopinion is that we provide all these tables and graphs already in our software. So there's lots of well, data digging that you can do. It's made quite easy as well. So for me, as a pivot table noob, I'm super happy with stuff like this, and I'm probably there's a lot of other marketers feeling the same thing.
If you don't like pivots, it's a great way to go. Awesome.
Exactly.
Very, very cool. I would love to learn a little bit more about your perspective on marketing, right? Because obviously you've seen many trends and many, approaches coming and going. Like, what would you consider the biggest challenge, when it comes to marketing? When you look about innovation, bringing innovation into marketing.
Marketing is of course moving so fast. Like when I finished my studies, and I think that's probably 10 or 15 years ago, I'm not entirely sure, probably 10. But then there wasn't really the internet wasn't really a big thing, and internet marketing wasn't really a big thing. It was nice if you name it, but I was schooled as a traditional marketer, let's put it like that. So yeah, it's moving super quickly. And if you ask me about the future of marketing, I think that we will see an uprise in customer data platforms, so that we will sort of get a marketing automation 2.0 or 4.0 or whatever, so that you will really see all the all the micro segmentation that you can do, that you see that happening in real time, and that you can act on that super quickly. Mm-hmm. That's one hand. On the other hand, I think, as Mopinion is a SaaS company, so I really think that product-led growth and product-led growth strategies will become more important, so that you will get almost a three-way growth stream. So you will have your inbound strategy, your outbound strategy, but also your product strategy.
Sort of sense. When it comes to return on investment, where do you see the biggest challenge for marketing today?
Well, I know for a lot of marketers or for a lot of companies, marketing is seen as basically the guys that are burning and spending all their money. So I think it's super important for everyone to make their impact visible. So really sit together with sales and hunt them down if you have an inbound strategy, that they really act upon all the stuff that they will need to do. Make sure that your CRM is completely in order, so you can track everything that's happening in there. So for me, the biggest challenge, of course, will be getting enough data in my systems in order to, see that what we're doing is actually beneficial to the company. And I have to say, so far, so good. I'm happy with how we do that right now, but also there is always room for improvement.
Yeah, makes sense. Super interesting. Sort of, learning more about marketing. Especially, within Pathmop, we're always super interested on, the listenership as well. We talk a lot about conversion optimization. Where do you see the biggest challenge in conversion optimization, on the page? Like, what is your perspective on that?
That's an interesting question. I recently joined another podcast, which was really focusing about conversion optimization. And what they said there, and I fully agree with that, is just test, and keep testing. For instance, turned out that as we have a multilingual approach, we decided, okay, maybe we should test that we get the sender from an email is now called Eva instead of Geert, my colleague who usually sends the emails out. And it turned out that worked perfectly in all countries except the Netherlands. So apparently the Netherlands liked it when the sender was Geert, because it received way more opens. So in order to make all these optimizations, it's just test, write it down. When is a test valid? Test it again, and then make a decision about it and go on.
Makes sense. I'm going to make it a little bit harder, right? So we ask your head of marketing folks in the podcast typically, to learn a little bit where the focus really sits. Like, if you would have to choose between, focusing on your roadmap, setting up new growth initiatives, shaping or changing your messaging, or deep diving into the reporting, like, what would be the first thing that you would turn to?
I would go for the last option in order to go for the second option. So yeah, see the reporting in order to make new growth initiatives. And for me, yeah, I really like to automate as much as possible. So therefore, you need a decent reporting and you need a decent growth plan.
Makes sense. I want to switch gears a little bit and learn about you personally a little bit as a leader in the marketing team. You mentioned marketing is changing a lot, right? There's a lot of new stuff appearing everywhere. What is the type of content that you consume, and how do you educate yourself, or even how do you filter information, to learn from these days?
Yeah, well, there's a couple of super interesting Dutch blogs called Marketing Facts and Frank Watching. And in their field, I think they're leaders. I can't put it in any other words. So I try to read upon that quite often. And of course, there's a lot of great books going around that I can really recommend. And then next to that, well, I try to talk with a lot of other marketers in order to, yeah, understand on how they think. But also, I really like to watch science fiction movies, but then not 100 years from now, but like 10 or 20 years from now, like for instance, Black Mirror, or of course Minority Report. Because those are things on technology level that are, yeah, I would say already possible or really possible in the near future, and that really makes you think. And okay, so maybe if I try to do it or rework what they're doing it in that and that way, we can do it like that. And yeah, that really keeps my mind going every time I watch something like that. So yeah.
Very cool. Yeah, it comes back to this saying, right? The future is already here. It's just not equally distributed.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Very cool. Okay, I want to wrap it up today for the interview with the rapid fire questions. Are you ready for those?
Yeah.
So the first question would be, what's the last book that you read?
It's called Selfies, and it's a thriller from a Danish guy. Forgot his name.
Okay, but the book is called Selfies, right? For everybody who's interested. Yeah. What is the one single thing that Mopinion is focused on the most at the moment?
At the moment, we're trying to build something super innovative, which is called a conversational feedback, which is sort of a hybrid version between a chatbot and a feedback form.
If there would be no boundaries in technology, what would be the one thing you would want to have fixed for your company today?
Oh, that's a trick question. So from a marketing perspective, I would say I wanted to harvest as much data as possible in order to give everyone the experience that they deserve. On more, if you look at the software, I would just have, it's never finished software. So I don't know, I would like to have 1,000 developers or even more.
Very good. The very last question would be, actually, if today would be your very first day you're working with Mopinion, what's the one advice that you would give yourself?
Yeah, well, don't be afraid of, yeah, don't be afraid. I think that's my takeaway. Of course, when you start somewhere, you're always a bit hesitant. And Mopinion has, of course, a very flat hierarchy. So you're basically free to say what you feel, how you feel. If you want to improve, you can just do it. It's better to ask for forgiveness than for permission.
Yeah.
And yeah, maybe I was a little bit too hesitant in the beginning, so don't be afraid and just go for it.
Very cool. Quirijn, I really appreciate that you took the time with us to be on the Pathmark Presents show. I want to give you the very last word. If somebody would be forgetting everything that we discussed about Mopinion today, what's the one thing that they should remember?
Well, I would like to give a small example here. So when you're really trying, like you're an e-commerce company and you're doing all this data stuff, and you see people dropping off in their shopping cart. So the final step before they're making a purchase, and they're clicking it away. What does it tell you? Well, usually you can't say that from the data. You can only see you have a drop off. What you don't know is someone doesn't have enough money. Doesn't mean that you have to follow up with an email that they get a discount around payday, or does it mean that you're not offering enough payment options? You simply don't know. And my takeaway would be that the data is telling you a lot of quantitative stuff, but if you are really willing to optimize, you should also look into the qualitative stuff, and therefore you would need a feedback tool.
Great.
And I hope you pick Mopinion, of course.
Very good. Very good. Where can people learn more about Mopinion?
So of course we have our website, mopinion.com. There's also lots of reviews on well, all the Capterra and G2, so all the big review websites. We have quite an extensive blog with lots of interesting features. We also have a podcast called 360 Digital, where we talk about the digital field and of course a little bit about feedback. Yeah, and we have all the socials going on, so Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter. So yeah, feel free to subscribe, I would say.
Great. Thanks a lot for being part of Pathmark Presents today.
Thank you.